Hey, Alan, how are you
Hi,
doing?
how you doing?
Yeah,
Good to hear from you.
time to speak to us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us.
No, it's my pleasure.
How's things going now? Are you back in full training?
Yeah. We started back just over a week ago now. So New Zealand is back to normal, basically.
Real,
Just to, we have no cases here.
no cases at all for a few weeks.
No, for 23 days now.
Okay.
So we just got a closed border. So we're just a bit isolated. I mean, obviously June is usually my trip to the UK and Singapore in June. So this year's been a bit of a disappointment in terms of not getting to see everybody. So yeah, but lucky we're back in training, so that's good.
Hmm. And how did that work with you? Have you managed to sort your flights out yet? Because we were due to go to
Um,
Thailand, and yeah,
yeah, well, no, I booked through a travel company, and it's been very difficult to get any correspondence with them. So I'm still battling to get my flights rescheduled or a credit or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
something.
that might take
Yeah,
some time.
we're in the same boat, I believe. I think
Mm,
I think a lot of people. Well, they are obviously, aren't they? A lot of people are in that
yeah,
kind of situation.
yeah,
And how
yeah.
was your uptake after the lockdown? Then have you been really busy or?
Yeah, I've been pretty busy. I'm in See, it's funny. In January, I kind of thought, oh, this is going to be my best year because my personal training business and um, therapy and martial arts, everything was really going really well. And then obviously this happened, so I'm back to about 80%, which is actually pretty good, I think,
That's
within
not
a
bad.
week or so. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
obviously for everybody, it's been a stressful time, or more the unknown more than anything else. But I feel quite blessed to be back to work, and everybody seems to be in good spirits. And yeah, New Zealand has been quite fortunate, really.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
good. That is very good because we are in the midst of our numbers are worse than the rest of Europe combined, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's a bit. I mean, obviously, I feel sorry for everybody there, and also feel sorry for myself because I can't come and see you guys, and I can't see my family, and yeah. So it's a bit. There's a bit of the unknown how long that's going to last for, and what's the future of that? We don't know yet, do we? Really?
no, no, we do. I think that's the thing with a lot of people. That's the thing. It's just that unknown factor. Nobody really
Mm.
knows if they're doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But hey ho, hey ho. Moving on anyway. Let's let's move away from global disasters and move on to the important stuff. So I wanted to ask you. Obviously, I've known you many years and stuff like that. And as you know, all my guys, you hear me talking about you and stuff like that. So I wanted to get a little bit of history and stuff like that, and
Yeah, sure.
just to pad out your story, if you will, and just to
If
fill
I
that
can
up.
remember.
Yeah. So what were the first thing? What were it that got you? You know, the first thing you thought, right, I'm going to go do myself some martial arts. What was that?
Probably around 14, I think I started martial arts. I was bullied at school. I was bullied at home. So, all that sort of stuff was a little bit depressing. I was probably quite shy and wasn't really sporty. So I wasn't really picked for football teams, or I wasn't a sort of physically popular type of kid. So um, all that sort of stuff made me sort of veer towards learning to defend myself. Also, where I lived, it was a bit rough, so I used to get attacked and beaten up by local gangs. So I kind of everybody was beating me up, and I was a bit shy, so it kind of made sense to go and do something. I suppose the hardest part when I first started martial arts was that I didn't really like confrontation and didn't really want to be in that situation. But then I realized by learning martial arts, you put yourself in that situation every day, every time you go. So it was quite a hard start because back then with teaching martial arts, most instructors didn't really have a background in teaching. They just taught the martial art that they taught in any which way they were taught. So different teachers had very different approaches. And yeah, my first couple of years of martial arts training was quite tough. I tried out maybe 10, 15 different types of martial arts, different schools. My friends who were into martial arts, I had a couple of friends that were quite dedicated to traditional martial arts, and they always laughed at me saying, "Oh, I was wishy-washy, never stuck to anything." And I always maintained a mentality that I was looking for the right thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, I was consistent, but not consistent with the same art, because I couldn't really find anything that really fitted for me. And then I found Wing Chun. Mostly, I found Wing Chun because I was a big fan of Bruce Lee, and I was kind of into, you know, the whole kung fu thing was kind of mystical to me, and I liked all that idea. So I started to, you know, read more about martial arts from the practice that I was doing, and I became quite fascinated with Wing Chun, and that was really the first art that I really sort of fell in love with. Before that, I suppose the art that I had spent the most time in was probably karate and aikido. I did aikido for a couple of years. It wasn't it wasn't really designed.
I'll be able to salvage. We were just talking about what got you into martial arts. What was it about Wing Chun that you liked, and what about other martial arts that you felt?
I suppose at the time it was the Bruce Lee craze was at its all-time high. So I was interested in Bruce Lee. You know, that was kind of like an interesting icon. And then I suppose because there was no MMA back then, so you either did point karate was a big thing, and or there was very traditional martial arts. We didn't have any combat, and there wasn't really full contact really, unless you went like into full contact kickboxing. There was that, but and there was boxing, but there wasn't really a martial art that had the art and some application, live application to it. And Wing Chun, because of the Chi Sao, seemed the most combative to me. And then all the people I knew that were sort of tough guys back then all did Wing Chun, because it was classed as Wing Chun was a street fighting system, and I needed to learn to defend myself for the street and for self-defense purposes. So it kind of made sense that was the kind of the premier street art as such. That was the kind of Hong Kong street fighting style. That kind of made me think that was the style that was going to be suitable for self-defense.
Mm. So it was very much the application based. It wasn't so much the sort of health and well-being and stuff like that. It would directly
back then, you know, back then I was, you know, 14, 15 when I started doing martial arts. So by the time I started doing Wing Chun properly, I was probably just 15, 16. I wasn't really interested in health benefits because I was just a young guy.
Healthy
I was already healthy anyway, and I went to the gym, you know, so I did a lot of gym work, and you know, martial arts was all about, really was more like, for me, was about fighting. You know what I mean? That was my main goal. I needed to learn to fight. You know, everybody was beating me up, and I was getting bullied all the time, so I needed to learn to fight. So that was really the focus, really.
And the gym work you were doing at the time, then, is that just what you know, 3 sets of 10 on whatever you could lift, heavy as you can, that kind of style?
Yeah. I was quite lucky in some ways, because there was a gym in Putney called Physical Culture, which is one of the first. It was kind of like the Gold's Gym of the UK. It was like one of the London's most famous bodybuilding type gym that was under these arches. It was really hardcore, a real hardcore place. And you know, me and my friend Paul used to go there and train all through the summer. And the guys there, I mean, they didn't take us seriously because we were just kids, and they were all bodybuilders and powerlifters and world's strongest man trained there. But they were really nice to us, and just encouraged us to do what we wanted to do. And we had lots of advice and stuff. And you know, we wasn't bodybuilders. We were just training just to lift weights and get a bit bigger and get a bit more muscly, you know, like young guys want to do. But there was a lot of encouragement, and there was a lot of inspiration from them guys. So it was a good atmosphere. It was somewhere that felt safe for me. It felt like a de-stressing time. So yeah, I really enjoyed that period. You know.
Excellent. And were it that then that gave you the, you know, what were it that made you want to go into personal training and things like that then?
Yeah, probably that was part of it. I mean, as I started getting better at martial arts as time went by, I kind of realized that you needed to be fit. You know, you need to be fit. You need to be agile. You need to be strong. So part of that was going to the gym, and I just enjoyed the gym as well. I enjoy the stress relief, you know, that it gives you. Enjoyed the sort of mental benefits of the training, and then obviously the physical benefits of the training. So they became hand in hand. And then as time went by, because I'm the type of person that always wants to know more and know why I'm doing things, I was never I never liked the idea of someone tells you something and you just do it. So I was always very good at that. So I was always very disciplined and very respectful to my teachers. I'd always do what they told me to do, but then I'd go away and research it and come back with questions and say, well, you told me to do this, and then I'd give them 10 questions on it, and then they would have to kind of put up with me being either insolent or being enthusiastic, So the gym was the same. I wasn't really happy just going there and doing stuff. I want to know why I was doing it, getting the maximum benefit out of what I was doing. And also because I was interested in Chinese medicine from that early age, I was also interested in not damaging my body by stuff I like doing. Because I kind of, even from that age, I kind of thought, I really love doing this and I want to do it for a long time. And I used to look around at the old karate guys, and most of them had hip replacements, knee replacements, and most of them couldn't do karate anymore. So I was thinking, I don't really want to end up in that situation where I've broken my body to get to a good level, So I kind of always had this idea that, how do you train hard? Because I like training, and how do you not damage yourself? So that was a big interest to me. I mean,
from when you first started. So what, the Chinese medicine and the martial arts and the training, they were all happening together?
Yeah, because when I first started doing the gym and martial arts, I mean, as you do, you start pulling muscles, you start straining things, you're using less technique, so you make mistakes. And I was always, and I also at the time I worked in a bank, so I spent most of my day sitting down, and then I spend most of my evenings, smashing around, getting traumatized. And I kind of used to get like muscle pulls and bad neck and bad shoulder. And I used to go and see this guy who was an osteopath who did acupuncture. And I was quite fascinated by the fact that I'd go in there like, with a spasm in my back or a trapped nerve, and I'd come out feeling great. And I was thinking, how did you do that? Do you know what I mean? So again, my inquisitive mind was starting to read books on Chinese medicine. And then I found my first Chinese medicine teacher, Maria. She was an amazing inspiration in my life. And she really spurred me on to get better and better. And then, years down the line, when I met my Sifu Robert Chu, he's a doctor in Chinese medicine, and that obviously continued to encourage my development, and also reinforced to me that was an important part of what I was learning over that period of time. So really it was, all these things were kind of out of necessity. I learned personal training because I want to know what I'm doing. I learned Chinese medicine because I want to know how to heal myself and also to help others, because I really enjoyed the fact that I was able to share that information with people or treat people. So people used to come up to me and train, so I pulled a muscle, I've done this, and I'll just treat it there and then, and it was gone. And that was quite rewarding. So yeah, it just all became. It was never meant to be a career path. It was just what I was doing. And then as I got deeper into Chinese medicine, we used to do a lot of case studies. And I used to have people come to my house on a weekend, and I had 20 people a weekend coming to my house. And then once I qualified, people said, well, can we keep coming and pay you? I said, okay, sure. And then I was, well, okay, this is actually quite a good way to make a living. So I'm doing what I like doing, And then, it just sort of all snowballed, really.
And from that inquisitive mind, I've got to say, I'm very similar. I have that same sort of thing where if something works, you want to know how it works, almost like taking the back off a clock, and you just need to know how it works. I think that's a pure way of learning, because it's just an inquisitive mind. There's no end game to it. I mean, it's not like I want to learn this so I can do this. You just want to know how it works.
Yeah,
I think
that's basically it.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it. I've also been one of those people at your classes saying, "Oh, I've heard this, I've heard that." That again made me follow you into the martial arts, the Chinese medicine. So as you got more and more, did you become? Would you say you like obviously Robert Chu is your Qigong in Wing Chun?
Sifu,
your Sifu. Is he your leader, if you will, or do you follow him with your Chinese medicine, or is that a separate thing?
Well, my Chinese medicine teacher originally was, and still is as such, Miriam McCarthy. She's inspiration. I learned Tuina, which is Chinese massage therapy, from her, and I learned acupuncture from her. And then I also went on to study acupuncture at other places as time went by, because that's over sort of a 10-year period. I did maybe 3 or 4 years with her, and then did other training in London and through other means. And then when I met my teacher, Robert Chu, because he was a very well versed doctor in Chinese medicine, he his insight, you know, was incredible. And you know, I started to follow basically whatever he said. You know, he taught me. I researched it, and then you know, it just became a snowball that if I have questions, if I have any problems, I was, you know, phone him, email him, message him, Facebook him. So we talk most weeks. I mean, we talk about 3 or 4 times a week on Messenger, and then I have FaceTime with him, and we do lessons and, you know, discuss things. So, and that's been going on for years and years and years. And obviously, over the period of me training with him, I've been to America numerous, you know, hundreds of times, and he's been to England, and, you know, we spent hours and hours and hours together. So we have a very strong bond, and I see him as my mentor. So everything I do goes some way through him, because everything I understand, my whole understanding of everything in life is in terms of learning and development has really been inspired through stuff that he's made me understand. So yeah, so I really, yeah, he's my main mentor. So yeah, so everything I do in some way relates back to, you know, some sort of lesson or study I've had with him.
Right. And your initial meeting then, what were it that did you hear about him and then try and find him, or?
I read his book, Complete Wing Chun, and when I read it, I kind of read it, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't like it, I didn't understand it. You know, because there was stuff in there that seemed different to what I'd learned, and stuff in there that he was talking about when he talked about his core life system and his Wing Chun system, and the way he talked about Wing Chun was much deeper than I'd learned. And I'd done about 12 years Wing Chun by then, and I also felt by then my Wing Chun was, you know, it could hold its own, and I was probably better than most that I'd meet, but I just didn't feel wholly confident with it, and no one would really teach me more than the first, second form. People were reluctant to teach me. You know, there was always stuff back then. People talked very, very slowly. People always told you weren't ready, or you couldn't do it properly. So you kind of slightly battered back by the fact that you weren't good enough to learn Wing Chun. So I emailed him and said, look, I was going to LA anyway to see a friend, and could I book a lesson with you and maybe, you know, have dinner and just chat? And then we started corresponding on email. And because he did Chinese medicine, I did Chinese medicine, we were interested in all the same things. We realized we had sort of same sense of humor, same interests. And then, so I booked a couple of lessons with him, came to LA. The first day I trained with him, yeah, he just completely blew me away. I mean, the amount of depth that he had was incredible. And he showed me the first 3 forms, and I'd only learned maybe half of the second form. And I was like, holy hell, this guy's just shown me so much, and I don't even know him. And then he said something really profound to me. He said to me, no, you practice Chinese medicine, so you know why. And I said to him, what do you mean? He said, well, see, in Chinese medicine, we diagnose people from different methods. One of the methods we diagnose people is by looking. You know, you look at somebody, you can see their complexion, you can see their health in how they look, but you can also see their emotion. You can see, you know, what kind of spirit they have. So he said, you know, I can see you're a good person. I can see you want to learn. I can see you've been held back a long time. And he said to me, you know, like, I don't want to be one of the people that's holding you back, you know. He said, you know, I mean, he said, I don't want to encage you with like a bird in a cage. He said, I'd rather you come back whenever you want. So from that day on, I kind of it stuck in my brain that, you know, I never want to hold anybody back, because he said to me, it's hard enough to learn as it is. You know, there's a lot to learn. You know, it's not easy. So even I tell you the answer, it doesn't mean you can be good at it. So I kind of took that mentality from my whole life. From then on, whenever I talk to people, I've always had the mentality that I never want to hold people back. If they're good enough, then they can learn. If they work hard, then they can learn. You know, people hold themselves back. So why do I want to hold them back? So yeah, so from that day on, I kind of, you know, I think I had a lesson with him. Say I had a lesson on a Monday with him. It was about 4 or 5 days until I saw him again. And that 4 or 5 days, I must have driven my host, who was looking after me, mad, because all I talked about was Wing Chun, and all I did was Wing Chun for like 7 or 8 hours a day. And then when I hooked up again with my Sifu, you know, Robert, who wasn't my Sifu at the time, but when I hooked up with him the second time, he was like, "Wow, you've learned all this stuff really quick." And I kind of thought, well, I haven't, because I've been doing it for like probably 25 hours by then that week. But then I think that was a trait he learned about me after a while, because every time I'd come back and spend 2 weeks training with him, and then go away, and then come back 6 months later and spend 2 weeks training with him, he said to me, "Wow, you've improved so much. You know, you were such a fast learner." And actually, in fact, I wasn't a fast learner. I just did a lot of repetition. You know, I actually went back and really worked hard. You know, so I think a lot of times people will learn stuff, but they don't really work hard to get good at it, and then they want to say, "What's next?" Well, you need to sort of master what you know. Do you know what I mean? So
That's
yeah,
huge. Actually, I've just made a note there on training hard because, like you say, I think I'm assuming I know what Robert Chu was thinking here, but to say that I as a coach myself, obviously you're a coach. What you find is if you give someone a lot of things to do, if you say, okay, you just need to go and I need you to learn this first section of this form, or I need you to learn this sweep or whatever, I would say probably 8 or 9 out of 10 people will learn the outline of it and get it so they kind of know it a little bit and then
yeah,
go, okay, I know that. Show me something else, like what you've just said.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
with my experience with you is if that was you, you probably go where you could write a book on it and then you go, okay, show me something else. But your level of
yeah,
understanding of that thing tends to be more. That's what I find really interesting as you
yeah.
as a coach and things like that.
Well, I think the high level skill is not in the amount of stuff you know; it's the amount of depth you have in what you know. So, like in jiu-jitsu, you learn a sweep and you learn maybe 6, 7 mechanical key points, and then you have some key points in terms of force reaction and stuff. But then there can be 20 variations in that sweep depending on what they do.
Hmm.
But you don't teach the 20 variations. You teach the basic sweep and the mechanics of that sweep. And then when you roll and spar, you start to feel where it doesn't work. And the person says to you, "What? I didn't work here." And you say, "Oh, well, if that happens, put your hand here and do this." You go, "Oh, okay." And then you add that to your layer. But if you try to teach someone 20 versions of the sweep straight away, they don't remember the first one. And the first one doesn't work anyway. So the first one doesn't work. It all falls down in the first place. You need to have a very, very good first version of the sweep before you can actually add the 20 variations. And the variations add in layers as time goes by.
Hmm.
And Wing Chun is exactly the same. You have a position, a movement. If it's very weak and it's not very linked to your foundation or your understanding of the rest of the movement, it doesn't really exist. It just collapses.
Hmm.
So I mean, I remember when I first learned Wing Chun from my first teacher, and he was very strong on discipline of drilling and repetition. And back then, we used to have a lot of challenge matches. People used to come down and challenge your style of Wing Chun with their Wing Chun. And it was kind of like the first um, touch of like not MMA, but like, there was competition. People would come down and chest you. And
Hmm.
it'd be like a Chi Sao roll fight. But similar to you doing it in Jiu Jitsu, when you roll, someone's going to try and submit you, right? So Wing Chun used to be more the same. People used to come down and roll with you. And they I'd be thinking, oh my God, this guy's done Bill G and I've only done Silam Tao. And then I'd do Chi Sao with them. I'd punch them twice in the chest and they'd fall over.
Yeah.
And I just think, what's happened? Do you know what I mean? Why didn't they use Bill G? Or I didn't understand. It wasn't a form that made you good. It was actually how good you could do the basic. The basic was good.
Yeah.
They tried to punch me. They didn't have any power. They didn't have any structure. So, of course, they didn't work. So it wasn't 2 years later I realized what was happening. I realized that really the key was in the foundation.
Hmm.
The foundation was good. Then you can add layers to that foundation, but if the foundation is not good, and it sounds corny saying it now, it seems like common sense, but if the foundation is not there, then obviously nothing else stands up.
But no, you're absolutely right because, again, as a coach myself, sometimes if I'm coaching private lessons, you will find yourself coaching the same things over repeatedly. You're just coaching the same things, and I think that is because people don't adhere to the basics. They're probably trying to
Yeah,
learn, something really fancy rather than getting a core understanding of the basic movement.
yeah,
I've had that experience in Wing Chun quite a lot, where, like you say, people there is definitely a thought in some circles that the hierarchy of the form. Say, if I know the second form, then I should just be better than you in anything we
yeah.
do because I know more than you. Obviously, in
Well,
reality, it's not true.
where that falls true is if you know the second form in application. Like if you, I always say people either sit in tail level, jump kill level, BGU level. And what I mean by that is not because they know the form, it's the level of skill they have should match that level of understanding and depth. So in Silam Tau level, you should be able to control back and forth forces and control your center. You should understand all the basic techniques. That's Silam Tau level. If you can turn your opponent and you can return your structure, and start to move and manipulate people and throw them, that's jump kill level. And if you can hit someone when you shouldn't be able to catch them, or you can kind of cheat a position which you should have lost, then that's more the Bill G level. You're actually above that level. So there is a level that's connected to the forms. Most people don't have that connected to the forms. They just think if you learn the form, you have the level. But learning the form isn't the level. That's like if I show you an advanced sweep, it doesn't mean you can do it. It just means you know it. But that's not the level. The level is when you can pull it off. So for me, the level is applicable to the forms only if you can work within that parameter that you can perform under some sort of pressure. And that's when I started to think about Wing Chun and think, yeah, Wing Chun, when I first learned it, it was really pressure tested. I mean, it was a pressure tested system. And as time went by, not systems I were learning, but looking around at other Wing Chun styles, I was thinking a lot of these guys don't pressure test what they're saying or what they're doing. So I got very disheartened with Wing Chun. So then I started learning the Screamer because I was getting board of Wing Chun, and then obviously I got to a good level with Screamer. I had a very, very good teacher. Well, I have a very good teacher, Mark Wiley, who's an awesome teacher. He's a very clear teacher and very analytical about why we do things, when you do things, and that really opened my mind to, what I was missing in other martial arts. So between Robert Chu and Mark Wiley, I really had some awesome levels of instruction. And then, we got to a level of Wing Chun where the guys, that I was teaching were guys that probably wouldn't have started Wing Chun nowadays, because nowadays they probably wouldn't straight into MMA. But back then it wasn't MMA, so they were wanting to test the stuff that we were doing. So then that's where it led to us starting to do more combat competitions to test what we were doing. We didn't start doing competitions to test to see whether we would win, like we want to win. We just wanted to test it. So we didn't go in there with this mentality we have to be winners all the time. We just thought, just go and see what happens. You know what I mean? That was really the mentality.
And that's obviously a very unique thing to the Chu Sao Li system. In fact, more than the Chu Sao Li system, I'd say it's more your Ying Hung within the Chu Sao Li system. Just to outline that, it's the Robert Chu Sao Li system, and you are the Ying Hung system, which is
to explain it properly, we would say, when I first trained in LA with my teacher, he said eventually, when I was ready to teach, he said, "I'll just give you a school name." So he called us Ying Hung, which meant British brave, so brave British, because he thought, he was quite impressed that we were all a bit gung ho and we all like to scrap, So he I think he saw us as a bunch of bruisers. You know what I mean? So he gave us that name, and that was the name that we used just to describe that we were a branch of Chu Sao Li's system. But as time's gone by, I suppose I've taken the role within my teacher system as a sort of face of Chu Sao Li, because he doesn't teach that much publicly. And then I moved to New Zealand, and so all you guys kind of continued the tradition. And then basically Aaron was my closest student teaching from LA from them days. So I said to Aaron, you should be, and also Aaron, on another note, I have Chu Sao Li tattooed on my back, and Aaron has Ying Hung Chu Sao Li tattooed on his back. So I said to him, well, it's your destiny, really, that you are really Ying Hung Wing Chun. So when Aaron wanted to teach more and more, and I said, well, you should really be the head of UK, really, because he was the grassroots of it, and he was my first zero to hero, in terms of MMA. When he started with me, he was kind of like a owl-shaped hippie, and then he turned into a warhorse, So
now he's an in-shaped hippie.
yeah. But he's a machine, So I mean, he was the perfect example of somebody who wasn't really destined to be like a superhero, and he became one. I mean, he became like a horse, iron horse. So so really, Aaron is really the Ying Hung part of what we do now in terms of the school name. And I just see myself as Chu Sao Li Wing Chun is a system I'm part of. But I suppose I'm so entrenched into the system that I've become part of the system. So in a weird way, there's been a sort of symbiosis, there between me developing a system with my teacher. I always think to myself, I think of my teacher like a mad scientist, and I'm the test pilot, so he's the brains, he gives me all the information, and I go and test it and come back and tell him the results. And then he'd tweak it with me. I mean, so we have a sort of mutual relationship where he has so much depth of understanding and insight that if I talk to him for more than 10 minutes, I've learned something new.
Yeah.
And I've learned a new idea, and I've worked out something with practice, and then I come back to myself, I've been doing this, and then then next week he's doing it, and then he's doing it differently, and then he's adding stuff, and I'm changing stuff, and it goes back and forth. So we keep each other really kind of motivated by just having that sort of intellectual banter, really, about what we're trying to develop.
Yeah, I've noticed that Aaron's building a good core group now as well. Between Aaron and Si, the guys are really forming a good thing there. In fact, I'm due on a Skype, not a Skype. It might even be a Zoom. There might even be a Zoom Ying Hung session later on today. And I know when Aaron's doing the sessions, he's got the guys from Italy and all kinds of people. It's pretty much a global Wing Chun session that's going on.
I think it's really one of the good things to take out what's happened. Yeah, it's one of the good things to take out what's happened is people try to connect a bit more, and that's brought us all closer together. I mean, that's one reason why I started my online platform, was really to have a base of like a base dictionary of what we do that was recording and kind of keeping track of the development of what we teach, because obviously when I was there all the time, people just follow me, but I was always trying to get people to do their own thing and follow me, but progress themselves. But people obviously find comfort in being told what to do. So me moving to New Zealand made everybody a bit like, whoa, now we need to take some responsibility. And I didn't want them to feel completely isolated or left out. So that's the reason why I sort of started the online platform. But then what's happened recently is allowed the guys that have developed some good skills to start sharing with each other and helping each other, and that's even more beneficial as well. So
I'd say your online platform is pretty fantastic in terms of people that want to train Wing Chun, or people that want to just train themselves in a healthy way. I find it. I've been scouring the internet just lately for resources. And I just keep coming back to yours because obviously as a student.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's been going about 5 years now, and there's more than 30 courses on there, and it's everything Wing Chun, but also we have a lot of grappling on there. We have a lot of fitness stuff going on there. So I've got courses for all the things I'm interested in, and I'll be adding some stuff on Chinese medicine and next year and stuff, and later this year. So there's more health stuff going on there. I think what I try to do, for me, actually, the website, the same as when I write books, is a way for me to document my progress and to document what I know, because I know more than I know. Because I sort of think, oh, what should I do now? And then when I start putting a course together, already I put together 4 or 5 modules, and when I record them and put them down, and I sort of think, oh, I didn't know I knew all that stuff. It's like, and sometimes when you put it down, you start teaching, and you realize there's 5 other things that you do, but you don't really teach because you just know them. And then when you teach them, you break them down. You think, I better add them. So you start to actually deepen your knowledge, and then you also make it's like kind of like a historical diary of what I'm teaching and learning. And it kind of benchmarks for me stuff that I really want to get good at. When I put it on the course, I feel that I have to be really good at it. So I start working a little bit harder to make sure that I've really got it. And then I find myself going back to my teacher and re-questioning certain things to make sure that I've got it right before I present it, because you don't want to mislead people. You don't want to make mistakes. You know what I mean? So it's quite. I mean, also my guys tell me when they record stuff or send me stuff, it makes them nervous and makes them have to make sure they get it right. I said, yeah, well, welcome to my world. Like I've got like thousands of videos out there. Everybody wants to critique what you do. You know what I mean? I mean, some people look at what I do and think, oh yeah, I know what he's doing. I can do that. And then when they meet me, they're like, oh no, it's completely different. But people who know me can watch the videos and they gain many more layers. So if you're someone who hasn't trained with me and you watch the videos, you'll learn a lot. And if you're someone who trains with me, you'll learn even more because you'll have that first-hand experience as well. And so yeah, there's a lot of benefits to the online training. Before I did it, I would have said to you online training was pointless. But then for learning jiu-jitsu, BJJ, made me realize that online training is very important, because when I started learning jiu-jitsu, I found myself checking things online with other, just Googling online on YouTube, like arm bars or triangles, and finding there's gazillion versions of how to do stuff. And that allowed me to to question what I was doing and to check what I was doing and to have questions. So it meant that when I went to training, I didn't go there with an empty head. I went there with, oh, okay, I've seen the Kimura done like this, and I've seen it done like that. And then my teacher said, oh, well, this is the best way. Yeah, some people do it this way because they've got longer arms or they've got shorter arms, and he'll explain things to me based upon what I asked. So by looking at stuff, it's like reading a book. You know, you gain more information, you've got better questions and better depth. If you don't do anything, you're just basically doing as you're told. So I think I mean, I don't think, and I think people get confused. They say, oh, you can't learn martial arts online. We're not saying that. What we're saying is it's a resource. It's a very important resource. I mean, as nowadays, you can see what's happened with the current situation. Many people are learning university standard stuff online because you can't go to class. So you can learn anything you want online. It's a resource, but you have to understand its limitations and understand its benefits. So I think, you know, for people who are coming out of this, and especially people around the world that are getting back into their training, the online resource is still a very important resource and an important connection socially to people to help you, you know, stay focused, motivated, and to check what you're doing. So there's lots of benefits.
Right, and something you said there that hit a note with me. You all through your training, you've taken responsibility for your own improvement. Obviously, you have teachers like obviously we should mention Leo Nagao, this our jiu-jitsu coach, master.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you had a question, you'd make the research, and then you'd present it to your teacher. I mean, obviously, having very open-minded, progressive teachers like Robert and Leo has obviously helped you.
Yeah.
But you're the one
I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky because I mean, I say lucky, but I spent 12 years doing Wing Chun before I met Robert, and I had trained many martial arts and many styles of Wing Chun. So I say lucky, but I mean, I found the right person because I was looking for them. You know, the lucky part was that he was willing to teach me. That's the lucky part because to find the right person, you can find them if you look hard enough. But you know, to then build a relationship and they want to teach you. To me, that was the lucky part. And then Mark Wiley with a screamer. I was doing a screamer for about 5 years before I met him. And then when I met him, all of a sudden my level of quantum leaped because of his level of teaching, you know. And then when I met Leo, I'd all been training wrestling and grappling for probably 5 or 6 years before I met him. And it was hard because back then in the UK, there was only blue belts in the country, not even that at one point in terms of jiu-jitsu. So I was going to America to train. I was lucky to train with Eddie Millis, who was an amazing K1 coach, an amazing MMA coach, and black belt jiu-jitsu. So I learned a lot of stuff from him, and he also had a lot of shuto and catch training. So Eddie's enthusiasm for being good at stuff and pushing you was a really important part of my development. And when I came back to UK, I couldn't really find anybody that made me feel like that. It was very hard to find someone that I really clicked with. So I kind of just kept doing my own thing, and then going to America a lot, train with the guys there, train with Eddie. Eddie came over, and Robert would come over. And then I suppose in terms of Wing Chun, I'd already felt by then I'd got to a level where I'd hit that critical mass where I knew I was improving through my own training from what my teacher was teaching me. I didn't need to always be coached directly that day to learn. I learned how to learn by myself, and Wing Chun allows you to do that. And then I also had guys that I trained to a good level that was able to train with. So I had training partners, I had the system. But with Jiu-Jitsu, I felt like I was still kind of like, at that stage where I hadn't hit that critical mass where I could learn by myself or learn from rolling people. I had to learn the art. I hadn't really been in it long enough. And then I met Leo Nagao, and me and Leo was a big, massive change in my level of grappling because I'd found that missing link. I'd found that person, that I could train with every week in grappling that would take me to that level. And training with Leo, it was excellent because he's a very, very intelligent guy, but he's very, very focused on the basics and doesn't make things fluffy. So if you start saying to him, questions about different types of chokes, he'd just say, "It's just a choke." And then you sort of say, "Yeah, but it's called a different name, right?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, but in the end, it's just a choke." So he tried to make you realize that, if you can't do basic chokes, then these other things are not really important because you don't need them until you know what you're doing. So, and when I started rolling with him and learning from him, I realized that a lot of people misunderstood his level of skill because they all knew that he was extremely good, but they thought it because he's physically very strong and physically very skilled, but he's got a level of depth to what he does, which is very subtle. But most people, I don't think at that time really recognized, how much technique he had, because I'd roll with him back then when I first started, and I could tell now that when I was rolling with him, he was basically teaching me by rolling with me, because he wasn't trying to beat me or try to control me. He was trying to make me find the right path by guiding me. Like, he wouldn't let me out of a situation unless I went the right way. So if I didn't go the right way, I wasn't getting out. If I went the right way, he'd let me out. So then I kind of realized which is the right way to go. So every time you roll, there's different points of where things change, where you can get out now, you can't get out now, you can get out if you do this sweep or you put your hand here. So he kind of used to just instruct me. It's kind of, it reminded me when I first learned karate when I was 16. I trained with Shugi Sao, who was Woodaroo grandmaster, and he didn't speak much English back then. And he used to teach you by nodding at you and just touching you. Like, he'd just kick you or slap you and nod at you. It wouldn't say much, but you sort of knew what he meant. The body language was so clear that you knew that you had to just put your hand there or your foot there and it would work. And I felt with jiu-jitsu, I was starting to get that level where I started to feel when it was right, when it was wrong. And then Leo's very articulate and very intelligent, so you could talk to him about it after and say, what was happening, and he'd explain things to you. So yeah, so that was a big change. That made a massive difference.
Yeah, I found I've been learning more about Leo's history through the pandemic with podcasts. I was listening to a Leo Vieira podcast, and I didn't know until I listened to that when Leo Vieira left Rio and went to Sao Paulo and started Checkmat, he went with two people. Two people went with him. One was Terere and the other one was Leo Nagao. I wasn't aware of that up until that point. And
well,
then,
Leo's known as the Ronin because he can go to any club he wants, and people will respect him and train with him. And he's not classed as an outsider because everybody respects that he's kind of embedded into jiu-jitsu. He's the old guard. He's been around a long time and he knows everybody. Even people don't realize that Fabio Gagel, one of his teachers, whose nickname's the General. The nickname was given by Leo.
Yeah.
Because Leo said, the general's here, get ready. And Leo's just that kind of character. I remember when Anderson Silva fought at Cage Rage. Someone I knew was at the Cage Rage when Anderson Silva had a fight there before he got to UFC. And when he won the fight, he jumped over the cage and ran over to see Leo because Leo was in the crowd because he noticed Leo was there and wanted his picture with Leo. And then when I met Nogueira said to me, "Oh, you're Leo's student. Oh, that's awesome." And he was all excited. So all these guys who are very famous fighters, they all grew up with Leo being a black belt when they were learning. So they have a massive respect for him. So he's been a black belt, from when these guys started. So he has got a reputation, and he's very approachable. He's just the kind of guy that doesn't get involved in the politics of martial arts as such. He just basically likes to train. So that's really a good. Whenever I feel a bit stressed about certain things like that, I always just think, well, what would Leo do? Leo would just laugh.
Just laugh. Man. Nothing to do, man.
Yeah, just roll. He always say, "Come on, boy, come on, boy."
Yeah.
And then
it's funny
I
though.
remember sometimes I come to class and I tell him something about my day. Like, I had a stressful day. This guy really wound me up, and I punch his face in. And Leo say, "Hey, come on, boy, just roll, and drag you on the mat and shut up. It's just testimony about it." Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I learned a lot from him. For someone who's so physically impressive, he makes you feel very relaxed. You know what I mean?
I've learned a lot. As I say, within the space of a week, I'd watched Comprido, Damian Maia, Leo Vieira, and there were another guy as well. I can't just remember who the other guy is, and they all went, "Oh, back in them days, Leo Nagao." He's like
every story you hear from Leo, they're all blue belts at the time, right? So.
Yeah, but actually De La Riva with the other guy. He goes, "Oh, Leo, he's my friend." And what I found in him as well is, like you mentioned, when Leo went to Sao Paulo with Leo Vieira, he was actually a Carlson guy at that point. He'd been training with Carlson, but there were a few of them that all trained together. Even though he was a Carlson guy, he was with Leo Vieira, who was under the original Jacare at the time. even that was, but they all went up there together. Really, really good tales. Because he's mentioned when you talk to Leo and he mentions these names, you kind of think, oh, okay. But then when you see them mentioning Leo and the regard in which they hold him, that's when you get a sense of your lineage. I think.
Well, you think of Checkmate, and you think of Alliance, and you look at Fabio Gagel, who's produced fantastic people like Marcelo Garcia, all them guys that he's produced. Leo was the black belt at the club teaching at the same time, and they all know Leo. So every one of them could say that Leo helped them in some way, or that had experiences with him. So yeah, it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear that kind of stuff. It's a bit like when Pete talks about his teacher Crazio, and them guys have been around a long time. That they really have had an impact on the sport.
And moving on to Pete, then that's a nice segue towards Pete. What was the meeting with Peter Irwin, a well-known UK MMA?
Yeah, you'll laugh about this because me and Pete met through Alex.
Alex from Rev Gear Fight Store.
Yeah. I mean, Alex is sort of larger than life character. He's a really, really intelligent guy and a shaker and mover. So Alex was training Wing Chun with me, and at the time, Alex was very passionate that Wing Chun wasn't respected by other arts because Wing Chun was the best, and he was very passionate about it. And Pete was a friend of his, and he was telling Pete all about it. And Pete is a very, very intelligent guy, and he can be very quiet sometimes, but he hears everything and takes it all in. So at some point, Pete said, "Well, I should come down and meet this guy you keep talking about." So Alex said to me, "Oh, Pete wants to come and meet you." And I sort of thought, "What for?" Because I know he's an MMA guy and he's been to Thai boxing and stuff. And I was a bit over trying to explain Wing Chun to people because I just want to do it, Yeah. But then my guys were also training for fights and stuff because we were getting into MMA as well. And it was all about just doing our stuff. And then I said, "Yeah, sure, come down." I thought, "Okay, come down. We'll just have a roll and have a spar and just see how it goes." And I can remember the day Pete came down because Pete's he's quite a strong guy, tattooed. He came into my garage and I thought, okay, he looks like he can handle himself. And I know he had some fights and stuff. And I thought, okay. But then I really believe in what I do, so I didn't really think about it too much once we started warming up. I just thought I'd just show him what I do, and if he likes it, he likes it. If he doesn't, no big deal. You know what I mean? And I actually thought to myself, maybe I can take something from him because my guys are starting to fight, and this guy fights. So there wasn't a big fight community really at that time, because this is going back a long time. And I mean, I suppose you have to ask Pete what he thought really, but I mean, obviously, Pete was fascinated by what we were doing, and the power that I had, I think surprised him. And I mean, obviously, he has a better level of jiu-jitsu than I had then, even now. But he still had a lot of trouble in the clinch with me, and trouble on the ground with me, and just didn't know why. And a lot of that was to do with the Wing Chun. So when I started explaining to him what we do and how we generate power and different things, he was really fascinated by it. And then we kind of hit it off really well from there. So, I mean, I've coached Pete for quite a lot of his fights. We've had a really good relationship over the years. And I think as time's gone by, he's kind of become more and more interested in the Wing Chun and what we do, because he put a lot of that stuff kind of went into his fighting style, but I don't think he really knew how much he had absorbed until later. You start teaching more, you start realizing that you're doing that. You start thinking, oh yeah, I do it that way because that's what Alan showed me. But I think so nowadays. I mean, as he's sort of retired from fighting and he's coaching a lot more, I think Pete's really focused on all the different things that he's learned over the time. When we start to readdress a lot of stuff and learn more stuff together. And he's been over to New Zealand like every year since I've been here, really. So, and then about 2 years ago, we arranged a fight in Thailand for him. So that was his last big fight. He did a few boxing fights since, because Pete would never stop, I don't think. But that was that was kind of get the band back together and do a fight together again. So that was really good fun. But me and Pete have had.
Could you tell us more about that? That sounds like a classic, doesn't it? Going to Thailand?
Well, I suppose it dates back to a fight we had in America. Pete was fighting in America on Eddie's show, Invincible.
Yeah, with that?
That was in LA. Yeah.
And was that, sorry?
What year was it? Oh, on terrible years. That must be, it must be 10 years ago, maybe more.
Yeah.
Yeah, must be at least 10 years ago. So we went to LA, and Pete had gone out there to fight, and he'd gone out there early to get ready, because he had to cut weight for this fight, and he was cutting weight down to, I think he was cutting down to 70 maybe for that fight. And then when he went out there, he cut the weight and got his weight down, and then the fighter pulled out, and then they got a replacement fight for him. It was at 77. So all of a sudden, he spent 2 weeks cutting weight, and then he had to get up to weight, which is actually quite hard to do, because when you cut weight, you can't really put weight on too quickly, and your body can respond really badly to put on weight. And in terms of your energy can mess up, because you actually then come in, kind of like after a fight, like after you've started to eat too much. So you have to be quite careful. So it was quite a tough road, that fight. And then I got out there, and we were sort of in a bit of a panic. And then we got ready for the fight. And then we had this really good fight. I mean, I think it's in my book, but Pete talks about stuff I said to him before the fight to get him ready. And I mean, it's funny because a lot of my fights talk about stuff that I say to them during fights or before fights. And I don't remember what I say to them so much, but at the time it's important to them, it's important to me, and it sort of becomes something that puts people, put them into a certain mindset. And we did really well, and he won the fight. And that was kind of like one of the best fights I think Pete can remember, and I can remember, that we had together. And when Pete said to me he wanted to have one more big fight when he wanted to retire, we're jumping forward now to Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, well, I'm going to be in Thailand. Just get a Thai fight, because he's always wanted to fight in Thailand. It's always been part of his his dream to fight in Thailand. So let's get a Thai fight, because I know what Pete's like. We didn't. He probably want to do that the year after anyway. So I said, so let's do that, and just get ready for that. And then obviously, when you're coming towards the end of your sort of competitive career, you kind of start to worry about other things. And I kind of just felt that we needed to really have a good fight. Pete's the kind of guy that doesn't want an easy fight, so we had to give him a tough fight. And he doesn't want to. He wants it to be a war. He wants to have a fight that is a real good fight. So there's no good thinking, okay, someone's getting towards the end of the career, we'll get him an easy fight and they'll be happy. He wouldn't be happy. I mean, so I said to him, well, we'll get a good opponent. I told the promoters his whole record, and we got a good matchup. And we got to Thailand, and there's posters of him everywhere. They're promoting it everywhere. It was pretty cool. There's posters up on everywhere. There's trucks driving around with posters of Pete and his opponent and stuff. And so before the fight, before we got to Thailand, I sort of had this feeling that it'd be nice to recreate some of the magic that we had with Eddie. Because Eddie is such a wonderful coach and wonderful guy. He brings this kind of crazy energy. And me and Eddie have always gone so well. I mean, he's not the easiest person to deal with for most people, but me and him have gone so well, because I kind of understand him and he understands me. And I said to Eddie, do you want to come to Thailand, and help me and Pete? We will get ready for this fight. And it was like awesome, So he came out to Thailand and brought two of his fighters, and we had a bit of the kind of, a bit of nostalgia, having Eddie there, having that sort of connection to, the good times in LA back in the day. And it all just came together. And then, we had this 5-round fight. It was a really good fight. He dominated each round, but the guy was very dangerous, and he had to make sure he didn't make mistakes. So it was the kind of fight that Pete felt like, this guy was tough. The guy had no quit in him.
Pete, Thai fighters are like that, right?
Yeah. Pete did really well. And Pete, I could see on about the third round, Pete sort of nodding to himself, like tempo was on. I could see he was enjoying himself, and I was so happy to see him enjoy himself and get the fight that he wanted. It was a tough fight. He got cut at the end of the last round and had to get his face stitched a little bit, and he was happy about that. So I just thought it couldn't have gone any better.
Complete.
I've got Eddie Mills next to me shouting. I thought this is as good as it gets. I mean, So it was just a good time. I mean, and that to me was kind of like part of our whole life journey of martial arts. It just sort of it's the things like that you remember. Remember the hard times more than the good times. Like the times where things were hard, and the times where you did things. You did things the hard way. They're the fun times, really.
Yeah, I find that too. I find that too. The stories you've got when you're in the trenches,
Yeah,
they're the ones that everyone
yeah,
has a old
yeah,
war stories. Oh, they're old war
yeah,
stories. So,
yeah.
in terms of yourself, then, what are you training at the moment? You know, your own development, your own personal development. What's going on there?
Well, I'm always training my Wing Chun. I mean, Wing
Mm,
Chun for me is kind of like it's like my, it's what I am. I
yeah,
kind of
who
Wing
you
Chun
are.
is part of me. I suppose for Wing Chun, I'm probably focusing a bit more on my weapon training at the moment.
Hmm.
Because we've been a bit more isolated. I started working on my pole a bit more and knives. My people don't realise that my teacher Robert Chu is a master of the weapons. So whenever I do weapons training with him, I feel like a bit like slow learner because he's so good. And I was planning to see him in January this year, so I wanted to really brush up on my weapons so I could get some new skills from him when I see him because it'd be a waste not to be at a really good level to take on the next level. I didn't want to get out there and feel like I was a bit rusty. So I've been working on my weapons quite a lot, and that's really been quite an eye opener for me because I think sometimes you do the forms and you train, but until you really isolate something, you don't really get that extra level. So that's been really good. And jiu-jitsu wise, I kind of turned the jiu-jitsu off over the period of lockdown because we couldn't train. So I didn't want to think about it too much because I would get depressed, not rolling.
Yeah.
So I just focused on my physical development, and I started studying a diploma in psychology just to want to deepen my understanding of learning and people and help my teaching. So yeah, I'm always trying to learn something, So I'm always trying to progress in some way, and that could be from a weekly to a monthly to a yearly goal, So I don't make goals, but I have goals, So I have things in my head that I'm sort of subconsciously working towards, or I've started doing, but I don't actually think about them. I don't think this is my goal. I actually if I sit back now and think about what I've been doing, I can tell you, but I didn't plan it in things. They just seem to happen. You know what I mean?
You didn't write it down then, or all like that, and have a formal
No,
structure.
no, I don't. I mean, I don't think it's not a bad thing to do. I mean, some people write things down and stuff, but I'm just not that kind of person. I don't write my goals down. My goals are come from me,
Yeah, you
internally.
know
I
what the
just,
goals are.
yeah. I mean, to me, it's just like I know what I need to do. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And that what something I've noticed about you over the years is you're constantly upskilling. Like you're learning this, you're learning that, you're learning this, you're learning that. Always, always, always. You never seem to be at a place where you're not engaged in studying something. Like you say, I know
Yeah.
you're moving into like you're doing the psychology stuff. Are you working as a
Yeah.
counselor now? Is that something you're offering now?
Yeah, so I'm doing counselling and psychology. I've always studied at NLP from back in the day, and I think martial arts teaches you a lot about people. So there's been a lot of life lessons in that. But then I've always read a lot of books on psychology over the years, and my library, you see my library. My library is huge. Um, I've read a lot of books. So studying it formally, it's just given me kind of more of a kind of academic structure to what I already sort of know, and it's improving my knowledge, of course, massively, and improving sort of my integrity of my knowledge. So that's really good. But yeah, I'm just not the type of person who can do nothing. So if I go on a holiday, I have to bring 4 or 5 books with me. Otherwise, it's not a holiday. A holiday means I have more time to read, more time to learn something new.
Yeah.
Mostly when I go on holiday, I've half written a book by the time I get back. Because I can't just sit around doing nothing. I'm not that type of person. I mean, people think things are a chore like that, but for me, sitting there reading something, writing a book when I'm on holiday is like the best thing ever. That's like, you know, that is to me a holiday. Holiday
That's
is
proper
time
holiday.
to do it. To
Yeah.
having time to think about stuff, to express yourself. To me, that's really a holiday. Because my normal work in life is helping other people. I spend a lot of time training people, developing people, helping people, which I love doing. But then that sometimes subtracts from what you want to do yourself. So you need some time to yourself sometimes. So a holiday for me is time for myself to do other stuff that I want to do, which is obviously sometimes related to what I do, but I think you need that time for development. You need that time for reflection. You need that time to sort of nourish yourself to be able to give more to other people.
Just that space, yeah, just that space. So,
Mm.
if you say, because you have such a range of people who you train, do you approach, say, you've got a fighter or a guy who wants to fight? And then you say you've got, I don't know, he's a dentist and he's coming for, you know, he just wants to be healthy in his 40s or something
Yeah,
like that. What's the
yeah.
approach there? How much
I say to
crossover is
people,
there as well?
I say I teach everybody the same and everybody different.
Yeah, I understand completely, but if you could elaborate.
Basically, yeah. So basically, like in Chinese medicine, we call it pattern discrimination. Yeah, yeah. A person will come in with a problem, and you might have the same treatment for a different problem, or the same problem might have a different treatment. Everybody's a person. Everybody's the same. People just have different needs at different times, and everybody needs to come full circle. They need to walk a circle. So they might start from the point where they need more health, they need more fight skill. Where they start, they have to go around that circle. So eventually, they have to learn everything. But it's just the key is where you start and where you take them. So if someone came in and they were kind of mentally weak or physically weak, and they need a lot of nurture, they need a lot of skills, right? So you give them more skill training. If someone comes in and they're really robust and strong, then you need to give them more technique, because they've already got the strength, right? And if someone comes in and they're weak, you need to make them stronger, right? So everybody has weaknesses and strengths, but then a strong person, the strength can hold them back because it makes them lazy, because they think, oh, I can't muscle stuff, right? The weak person can sometimes be a problem because they're scared of people that are stronger than them. So everybody has different problems at different times, but in the end, everybody has the same needs. They need to learn skill. They need to get stronger. They need to be more flexible. Everybody needs everything, but it's just on that circle. Where are you in the circle, and how many stations you need to get through before you can complete that circle? It's like a monopoly board. You have to go round. Do not
Yeah.
pass go. You have to go round and get there.
Yeah.
And
Top up each individual part as you go
yeah,
along.
yeah. It just depends where you start, and depends how much time you spend at each station. It depends on what you put into it, and what you want out of it. So yeah, it depends what people want, and depends what I want. Depends what they want to develop. There's a lot of variables.
Yeah, and in terms of your day-to-day day, because would it
Yeah,
be like you've got a guy in from 9, you think, oh, I've got a guy in at night between 9 and 10, he's a pro MMA fighter. I've got a guy in from 11 till 12, he's a joiner and he just wants to learn. Yeah,
yeah. So
he's
like
coming
like I
in.
start mostly. Yeah, I start mostly at 6 in the morning because I do personal training. My first client every day is the same person, and he likes to train with me. So we do a workout together. So I get my workout of the day first thing in the morning with my client, and we sort of compete with the workout a little bit and have fun. And then my next client could be a housewife that I'm training for fitness, so I don't need to do anything except instruct them. And then I might have someone after that who wants to learn Wing Chun, and I'm doing Chi Sao with them for an hour. And then I might have someone after that who's a builder and wants to be more flexible. So I'm helping them stretch, and sometimes we're doing yoga together or stretching together, or I'm stretching them. It just varies on what everybody needs. So every day I'm doing the same things but different things. So yeah, it's quite a lot of variety.
And do you break your working week down there? I know before you'd have like 3 days where you work as a personal trainer and then other days where you work as other things. Are you still doing that? So that's
Well,
brilliant.
that was because I was working in London and living in New York, so I was traveling 2 hours to London and staying in London 3 days. But now I live in New Zealand. I kind of work a more normal week, so I work a sort of five day week, and do mostly personal training in the daytime, from 6 to about 12, 1, and then sometimes 2, and then I have a 2 or 3 hours break, and then I have some more personal training or sometimes some treatment clients to see, and some therapy clients, and then I have classes in the evening on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I generally have a really long day Monday from 6 to half 8. It's a long day, but I have like 3 hours in between. And then Tuesday I have like an easy day, and then Wednesday a very busy day again, full day like from 6 to half 8. And then Thursday, kind of like a 6 to 5, which is my half day, which is more than
Half
a normal
day.
day. Yeah, and then Friday I've started just doing 6 to 1 just to have the weekend more free. And the weekend I generally just maybe see 1 or 2 clients that missed out during the week if need be. But I mean, because I get up at 5:30 most days, on the weekend I'm always up by 7. So if someone wants a treatment at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday or Sunday, then I'll go and do it. because everybody in my house is not really up to that time anyhow. So it's easy. I'm already up, so I might as well do it. But then mostly I'm doing sort of 5-day week as such. And that's spread between personal training, therapy, and martial arts, really.
All right, okay. That's a full week though. I love how our half day is 11 hours for you.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. Living a similar lifestyle, it really resonates with me.
Yeah.
So again, moving on one more time, and you come from that traditional background of martial arts. When you look at the traditional things now, what's your thoughts? You know, you see Wing Chun guys, and they're still doing. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with training Wing Chun as you know, a traditional, very traditional thing. But what do you think about the old?
The thing is it kind of winds me up a bit. Not your question, but when people ask me about traditional martial arts, I've always done traditional martial arts. That's all I've ever done.
Yeah.
Traditional martial arts is all I've ever done. I've always done Wing Chun, Eskrima, Jiu-Jitsu. They're all very traditional. You learn, you have discipline, you learn techniques, you drill. You know, that's as traditional as it gets. Do you know what I mean? The difference is what you do with it. You know, so what we do with it with Wing Chun, we do Chi Sao and we spar. With Eskrima, you know, we do the drills, then we spar. With Jiu-Jitsu, we do the drills, and then we spar. So the sparring is really what a lot of people fall down on. They don't roll and spar properly, or they do it in a way that's so contrived that it's never going to be related to a real fight. So traditional martial arts, I mean, people say, oh, Alan doesn't do traditional martial arts, he does MMA. MMA means mixed martial arts. That means that you've learned a few disciplines and you put them together. So they say to me, oh, when you guys don't do Wing Chun because you know, when you're in the ring, the guys are using Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. I said, well, of course, it's mixed martial arts. So anything we do stand up, we're using Wing Chun. It's pretty simple. It makes sense, right? Wing Chun doesn't have a ground fighting art. Of course, on the ground, there's concepts in Wing Chun that are useful and really have improved my Jiu-Jitsu to no end. But if I didn't know Jiu-Jitsu, they wouldn't help me for shit. Because if I didn't know what an armbar was or a triangle was, I'd be stuck in it, you know. Because I can remember the first lessons I had in Jiu-Jitsu when I didn't know any Jiu-Jitsu, and I was pretty good at Wing Chun, and I got beaten up by a 50-kilo girl, you know. So, you know, if you don't know the art you're in, you're going to get stuck. So, of course, if you're doing MMA, you need to have a ground fighting system. You need to have a system that's good in the clinch. You need to have a system that's good at range. You need to be able to strike. So our choice of systems is we do Wing Chun, and we learn wrestling, and we do Jiu-Jitsu. So we have them 3 different disciplines for MMA. And the only mix between the 3 of them is that there's genetic crossover. I just posted a YouTube video of Tan Sao and his relationship to an underhook in wrestling just today, actually, which is from my grappling course. I just thought I'd just put it out there it was just a coincidence that we were doing this. But, you know, there's a lot of generic crossover within the martial arts. And if you train to a high level in different disciplines, you start to see the generic crossovers. And in some ways, Bruce Lee, you know, I don't agree with everything he did, but one thing he said was very important. It's a daily decrease, not a daily increase. You know, you learn a lot of stuff so you can get rid of stuff. Because the more you learn, the more you realize you just need the right tool for the right job. And if you've learned 10 tools, you can choose the right one very quickly. So it means you can use that pattern discrimination. You can discriminate what you don't need very quickly because you have that insight and that knowledge. But if you don't have that knowledge, then you don't know what to choose. So of course, people get lost because they don't have an idea. So people that train Wing Chun that think they can defend grappling and have never grappled are in a dream world. You know, people who think that, you know, grappling is just rolling around the ground and it's not very skilled, they're in a dream world. So I learned grappling because at first I wanted to learn it just so I could defend it, and I realized you can't do that. You have to actually learn it properly. You have to actually understand it. Then once you understand it, it seems simple, but it takes time. You know, so yeah. So I've always done traditional martial arts, and my Wing Chun is very traditional. We do lots of qigong, we do lots of breathing exercises, we do lots of internal work. Everything we do is internalized. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that people don't see because they see what they want to see, or they see what they don't understand. And they don't understand it, they make a label for it, but instead of going and check it out, you know, if you don't understand something, say nothing. Go and see it. When you've seen it, then you can have an opinion, because once you've seen it and tried it, then you can have an opinion. But if you have never tried and never seen it, then don't say nothing because you don't know. I mean, So for me, I mean, jiu-jitsu is a very traditional martial art. Wrestling is very traditional in terms of wrestling is actually a very traditional martial art because everything is about having the right technique. You know,
Every
you do a
ancient
duck
culture
down
has
there.
wrestling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everything you do is very, very systemized, right? So that's really what traditional martial arts is about, having a system, right? But people think traditional martial arts is about, no contact training where you're just having a bit of fun and learning self-defense. But self-defense to me isn't fun. Self-defense is about defending your life. So to defend your life, you learn to spar and take pressure so that when real pressure comes, you're kind of used to being banged around a bit. You're used to being, kind of in an environment where you're not comfortable. If you're not used to that, you're going to shock. You're going to fight or flight and you'll be stuck. So I think the important part of pressure testing is really to test that you can cope with the pressure. That's why it's a pressure test, right?
I think, yeah, it's definitely something we see. I know there's been some butting of heads in the Wing Chun community about if you train in a robust way, like where you're actually testing the system against uncooperating people, that's sometimes labelled as not Wing Chun. Which obviously it's like if you were taking a car out that you just built and you were doing it a test drive and they said, oh, it's not a car now because you've test driven it. it seems to be a bizarre way.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at other Wing Chun, I mean, everybody can say the same thing. So this is sort of just people's opinions, So your opinion is your opinion. I mean, people will say, oh, everybody has an opinion. I say, well, they do, but it doesn't mean it counts, right? If I go to lecture at a university on something I never studied, they just laugh at me, right? Because they say, don't be stupid, you don't know it, right? But if I say, well, everybody should have an opinion, they'll say, yeah, but you haven't studied, so why you haven't got a valid opinion, right?
Yes.
So I always say, yeah, everybody has an opinion, but whether it's valid is another thing. So when people talk about street fighting or talk about MMA or competition or jiu-jitsu, and they've never done these things, then I kind of can't take them seriously. I mean, people say, well, what do you think? I say, well, I don't think anything because I'm just interested in what I'm doing, So I used to a few years ago try to get involved in try to help people have some insight into stuff, but I've kind of backed away because people just don't want to hear anything that they don't know, So I haven't been on the forums really for over a year, because I can't really be bothered explaining the same thing over and over and over. People say to me, oh, well, Wing Chun doesn't work with gloves on. Wing Chun doesn't work in the cage. And I have to explain, my guys have had over 400 fights. We've got hundreds of titles and we train with gloves all the time. And I have to explain the same thing, post my YouTube clips up, look at this. And then they say, yeah, but that's your Wing Chun. It's not real Wing Chun. It's not traditional. I say, well, it is. You haven't, it's like we train the forms, we train drills, we do Chi Sao. Of course, we're doing, Wing Chun. That's what we do. And they say, I know you're mixing stuff. You're doing Thai boxing. I said, well, I'm not doing Thai boxing. I haven't done Thai boxing. So how can I do something I haven't done, So it just gets very tiresome. And then people start arguing about what's internal, what's external. And then when they show me what they're doing and say it's internal, it's just like, it's a joke, So, it's very tiresome. So I just thought, this last few years, I just thought I'm just going to do what I'm doing, train my guys, people that are interested in what they're doing and interested in exchanging or talking about things sensibly. I'll talk to them. But, the public domain is not the place really anymore to get rational conversation, because people have very opinionated ideas, but they don't have any depth to the opinion, they don't have any real right to the opinion. I've been training fighters for 20 years. I've been doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling, grappling for 20 years. I've been doing Wing Chun for 30 years. So, I mean, I could have been done 30 years of rubbish, but I've done 30 years and I've kind of have a test-proven track record. So you think people would give you the benefit of the doubt before they actually make a decision. They think, oh, I should maybe meet one of your guys or meet you and see what you're up to. I mean, but they've been training 2 years, so they know it all.
Yeah. I think that's something I noticed. I thought it's just, to me it seemed like it wasn't worth your time, because to me you're a man with the experience, you're a man with the track record, you're a man with all these things, and you're saying, oh look, this is what happens when our guys, we've trained the fight, and then people kind of shy away from the information that's clearly there in front of them. It just becomes kind of a waste of time. I thought that as well. I think what you just said there, it's really, really great that you're just not even bothered with those people anymore. I think that if anything, they're just going to wait. It is a waste of time, and it's to talk to people that aren't going to be open.
I think what originally dragged me in was people kept mentioning my name, and tagging me. So I just come on and say once, an answer because I've been tagged or but nowadays, I most of the time, I just say the minimum that I can say and get out of the way. I mean, because I mean, if someone's interested, then they can come and train with me. If they're not interested, then why am I interested? It's not.
Exactly. It's just not worth your time at this stage, I'd say.
But people say to me, "Oh, well, you're very close-minded." But you know, I've got like 4 or 5. I've got 4 or 5 teachers from different systems that I've learned, and in the systems that I've learned, I've trained with all the best people around. You know,
And constantly upskilling.
Yeah, so it's baffling to me. I mean, that they can say that. I mean,
yeah. So, kind of to that end, then, what is your take when you see again? What I'm going to label them as traditional, just for the sake, just for the flavour of this conversation. Traditional old Chinese guys getting battered by young martial MMA guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's very sad because this I mean the guy that's going around doing that sort of stuff, he's fighting people. I mean, I suppose what he's saying, he's fighting people that he thinks are charlatans that shouldn't be teaching. Some of them, I mean, could be teaching something with value, but they're just too old to fight, or they're just not trained in applying their art in a fighting environment.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, it kind of annoys me because he should choose people to pick on that basically are trained to use their traditional martial arts in a fight environment. So if he wants to fight one of my guys, then for sure, you know, that's not a problem. But then they wouldn't come and face us because, you know, he'd have to face someone who's actually trained to fight, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, on the flip side, some of the guys that are complete charlatans that are teaching, then yeah, it's like a, you know, we've seen it with jiu-jitsu. People say that they're black belt, and then the black belt turns up, and the guy is completely rubbish. I mean, it's insulting to the art, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a mixed feeling about that, you know. Even just a while ago, Pete, you know, talking about Pete did a kind of it was kind of like a promotional video for one of these Chinese martial art masters, and Pete was the MMA guy in the video, and the guy was doing his techniques, and Pete was the fall guy. You know, it was a demo. You know what I mean? And Pete was just selling the movements that the guy was doing for the demo. And then about 6 months later, when all this sort of stuff started happening, the guy put it out there that he had beaten Pete up. It's like, it's just a joke. You know what I mean? You know. And Pete was like, that was clearly a demo, you know, and you can see it's a demo, you know, it's like, you know, it's like a Monty Python. Pete's just fallen over for him, you know what I mean? And Pete was being very kind, and the guy at the time was very nice to Pete, and Pete was very nice to him. It was a paid gig, you know. It was like we're making a promotional video. I mean, and Pete's done promotional work for TV stuff and movie stuff, and it was like that was what it was. It wasn't real. But then, you know, then he gets some, you know, emails from people saying, "Did you get beaten up by this guy?" He's like, "Of course not." Do you know what I mean? And then this guy this old guy ended up accepting the challenge from I think this Chinese MMA guy and got his ass kicked. But he was obviously deluded, you know. So there is deluded people out there that think that what they're doing is going to work in that kind of environment, and that's you know, very disappointing that people can be so deluded. You know what I mean? But you know, like all walks of life, we see this all the time, don't we?
Yeah, for me that's the thing. I've fought a little bit, and I've certainly been around fighters like yourself. Like, you know, I've trained a few fighters here and there and stuff like that. And what I always find surprising about those videos is the old traditional guy genuinely looks surprised that he's not winning. It's like, I can't, like, it must have been, I don't understand how you get to the point where you're actually in a ring.
Well, I can understand what's going on, because these type of guys, they brainwash their students to do what they're doing. I mean, back in the day when I first learned Wing Chun, it was like, do as you're told, don't ask questions. And, you know, if you're doing a system where you're leaning back and you're doing things that are not going to work in a fight, and it's uncomfortable, but you're doing it long enough, you start to lose track of what's natural. So a lot of these guys will be complicit and doing what they're told and being good students. And then the master, as such, will eventually start to become deluded, because they actually start believing that the skill is real. You know, so there's kind of like it's like a sense of trance hypnosis, really. I mean, that people start believing in their own bullshit.
Yeah, it seems that way.
That's why it's important. I mean, as I've got older, I train a little bit differently with my fighters. I mean, I've always been one of the main sort of sparring partners for all my guys, you know, and I'm nearly 50 now, so I have to be a little bit more careful, you know, with certain things. But I can create environments or pockets of environments where I can push them hard. And then when it comes around to other stuff, I put one of the other young guys in with them to to do stuff, because that's stuff that's going to be probably detrimental to my longevity if I keep doing that too long. You know, so you have to be smart about what you can do and know your limitations. I mean,
Mm.
you know, there's some stuff that I can still do really, really well, and other stuff, you know, it was good 5, 10 years ago, but now, you know, I do it differently. Even with jiu-jitsu, you know, you roll differently as you get older. You know, you start to appreciate the gi a bit more, because the gi gives you a bit more control. You know, I mean, I love doing no gi as well, but then there's stuff with no gi that I used to really like doing. Like, I used to like picking people up and, you know, doing high lifts and stuff. But, you know, I don't really want to pick people up my own weight anymore. You know, so, you know, it changes. You know what I mean? You know, so you go for the easy takedown. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So you
I've
do
talked
things
about that
again.
myself. The
Yeah,
takedowns go up. I don't do any more. All my
yeah,
takedowns just go
yeah,
down.
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
up
yeah.
part to them.
But, you know, when I teach, I still teach the lifts, but I don't have to. I'm doing them with someone who's compliant to what I'm showing them, and I pick up a lighter guy, so I
Yeah,
can still demonstrate it and
yeah,
show them, and then the guys can practice and they can do it live and they can test it. So I can teach it well and I can demonstrate it, but I don't want to do it live hard against someone my own weight or someone heavier, because it's going to be hard. So if someone's my own weight or heavier, I have different toolbox techniques that I would use. But for fighters, I teach them the stuff that's going to be more robust for a fight, you
yeah.
know. And
Stuff
then
that you need.
I teach them the other stuff that I do as well, but that's the stuff that I rely upon more than I did before, you know. So you know, your game evolves a bit in terms of what you do, you know, if you want to kind of be competitive in that environment. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. And to that end, then, as you get into your 40s, I know you know, obviously we're all getting a little bit older, and maybe your client base has got a little bit older now. So what advice do you have for people who are maybe over 40 now when they're approaching change?
Yeah.
Maybe people first coming into some sort of training, you know, gym-based bands, whatever it is. What would you recommend?
You've got to listen to your body, number one, and you've got to progress slowly. Don't rush, you know,
Mm.
because everything is building bases, you know. So most people want something quick nowadays, but nothing comes too quick. So you know, if you can't do, like, say 50 push-ups, then you shouldn't be trying to lift heavy weights, because it's not because of the rep range, because we've obviously 50 push-ups is a higher rep range. But if you can't do basic body weight stuff, then you've got no business trying to lift, you know, like your body weight in iron, you know, because you're going to hurt your joints. You need to condition your joints, and you need to have that base level, you know. So, you know, and I think as you get older, you shouldn't overlift too heavy anyway, because, you know, your joints can be deteriorated. You know, it's about you know, how much return do you get for something. So, you know, if you're doing something that's going to cause more damage than you're going to get reward, then what's the point? So, you know, so I think listen to your body, work within what's comfortable for you, push yourself out of your comfort zone, but do it in a way that's not causing you discomfort and pain, right? So feeling tired is one thing, feeling a little bit muscle soreness is one thing, but feeling like, you know, real hard soreness or feeling exhausted is not good for your health when you get into your 40s. You know what I mean? You have to listen to your body, and you have to pace yourself. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. What is the particular parts and equipment that you like to use? You know, like, are you using kettlebell? I know you use kettlebells a lot, but the
Yeah.
resistance bands, are you still deadlifting? Where you at there?
I do use a lot of kettlebells. I don't lift very heavy on the kettlebells for swinging or cleaning. I do that more for time, and I just stick with 16 kilo kettlebell. If I'm doing like muscle work with kettlebells, then I use 20s or 24s and stuff. But depends on the exercise you're doing, you know. So I tend to not to lift that heavy. I do more bodyweight stuff. So I do more push-ups, dips, and pull-ups, and you know, pulling your body weight, you know, is heavy enough. Do you know what I mean? And as I said, I usually have a morning workout where I do about an hour of weights, but it's more like a circuit. Or if we're doing body parts, then we'll hit multiple reps and we'll do it. So it's kind of becomes a little more cardiovascular based in terms of the energy level. Um, I don't really go below 10 reps on anything. So if that shows you the strength range, I don't do any heavy 2 or 3 rep training. I think once you get to your 40s, then that's putting you at risk of injury. So the kind of return on that is not very high. Why do you want to risk blowing your back out or damaging your joints just so you can be a little bit stronger? But I find when I wrestle with people or grapple or do Wing Chun or spar, I'm strong enough. I mean, I don't feel weak. I've got guys that can deadlift a lot of weight. Some of my guys are powerlifters, and some of my guys, young guys, very, very strong. I don't feel weaker than them. So I don't feel that I don't feel that kind of strength translates to the kind of strength that we need in the martial arts as much. I mean, not saying it's not a negative thing. If you're in your 20s and you're doing some powerlifting, that's great. You can get a lot of strength. Deadlifting and stuff is awesome strength development. But for that age group, your joints are much more supple. Your recovery is better. Your level of risk is less, so you get good return on that. That's fine. When you're in your 40s, and like I'm in my late 40s, I want to be able to train every day, and I don't want to risk a heavy injury. So I don't need to lift that heavy. And that's different for everybody, because I say to everybody, that's what personal training is. Some people have the ability to do things, into a late age. Some people run marathons in their 80s. I mean, I don't really run. It's one of the things I don't run. I use a cross trainer for cardio, and I use a bike. I don't run because running, my joints don't like it. But some people run into their 80s, right? So I'll do a little bit of stair running now and again, but that's about it. So you have to listen to your body. If it feels good, then you can do it. If it doesn't feel good, then don't do it.
So with the, if you wanted to really burn your lungs out, what would that be on a bike then? You'd use that?
Yeah, I'll do it on a bike, or I'll do it on a cross trainer.
Right.
Yeah, or I do it with plyometrics. I do plyometrics with the TRX because I can unload my joints with it, so I can still get the ballistic jumping movement. By using the TRX, I'm taking the pressure off my knees and off my hips, off my ankles, because that's allowing me to use my muscles to control the joints and the kinetic wave. So I can still do the jumping movement, but then I'm not jumping without I'm not jumping my body weight landing through my joints. So my body weight is pushing me up, but we're coming down, I'm controlling the descent.
Yeah.
So there's less pressure into the joints. But I think it's important to do full range of movement, and it's important to do some of that stuff, because if you don't use it, you lose it. So I think doing some jumping work and plyometry work is important to try and maintain that skill level, especially if you're doing jiu-jitsu, because you need to have that sort of robustness in your movement. But you don't need to smash yourself to do it.
Are you using the rope much, the battle ropes?
I do and I don't. So I do sometimes, yeah. I mean, I do use them, yeah.
Right, but you don't have anything. I remember years ago when we first started using them.
Yeah, I still use them. I still use them once a week. Yeah. I mean, I still use them, but it's not like a be and end all part of my training. You know what I mean?
And so if say we had someone, I'm imagining a scenario, someone coming into the 40s, they used to play, maybe they played football in the 20s or something like that, or they had some sort of sport, life got in the way, they had kids, they got a job, they got a promotion, and so they're coming back now and they're thinking, yeah, I'm 40 now, I want to try and do something. What's your advice on it? If we had the first 3 steps for those people, what would you say?
Well, it's a difficult question, because I mean, unless you assess somebody and deal with them personally, it's not really an answerable question, because everybody's so different. But generally speaking, I would start on bodyweight stuff again. Like body weights, squats, range of motion. Developing good hip movement and squats, and with no weight. I don't squat with bars and stuff. So bodyweight squats, push-ups, basic bodyweight stuff. If you can do that sort of stuff and do it under a bit of tempo to get your cardiovascular system working and build that base level. So you want to be able to get through a workout and feel that you're not dying. If you feel like you're dying, you're working too hard. You know what I mean? For that age group, you shouldn't work out to feel like you're dying. You know what I mean? When you're fit, you work out hard. You don't feel like you're dying. You feel like you're working out hard, right? So if I have a hard workout, I don't feel like I'm going to die. I just feel like I'm tired. So if you're working out and you feel like you're gonna retch and you're gonna throw up and you're gonna pass out, then you've gone too far. You're not fit enough. You've either overdone it or you're not fit enough. So I can push my body like hard and just feel tired. I don't feel I want to die. I feel tired, and that's a good workout. A hard workout. If I'm doing a hard workout, if I'm doing an easy workout, it's like I just just do the workout. It's fine. But if I want to do something hard and push myself and to try and get some development, I should still be fit enough already that it doesn't feel like it's pushed me past the point where I want to pass out or something. That kind of training to me doesn't make sense.
I think for me, to train hard usually means I struggle to talk at the end of it for a few seconds.
It just means you're trying to get oxygen back into your body, but you don't feel like you're going to pass out or out, right?
Yeah. That it would explain to me. I saw it written down that if you can't quite get your words out, that's probably your level.
Yeah.
You don't want to go past there.
Like if someone comes to jiu-jitsu for the first lesson and they roll, and in 5 minutes they're going to throw up and they're going to pass out, then they've obviously used too much strength and they've overdone it, right? So I tell people when they first start, just go at a slow pace. Don't get tired, because if you get tired, it means you're using too much muscle. That's a good indication for when people start jiu-jitsu, because you get young, strong guys and they just want to, win and get out and do stuff, and it's not really beneficial to anything, so there's no real point,
Yeah, well, that's sensible training is what I'm hearing throughout. The thread here is sensible training with the clear. Just enjoy what you're doing. I think that's the thing. For me, it's always been important to enjoy what I'm doing, and obviously I've just been following you in my martial arts and fitness sort of carries on, and it's worked well for us. So if people are interested and they want to find out more, what's the best places to find it?
Go to my Wing Chun website, which is alanorwingchunacademy.com, and that has all my courses on there. My email's on there. They can contact me, ask questions. I have a blog on that site, and then there's lots of courses on that site. And there's also a free part of the blog. So go to my website. It's probably the best thing.
And YouTube, you have a YouTube, Instagram, all that?
Yeah. Type Alan Orr on YouTube or Instagram and you can find me. My YouTube channel has about 200 or 300 videos on there. So, yeah.
That's a great resource. Well, Alan, thank you so much for taking the time this morning. As we've been talking about, you've obviously got a lot on. We appreciate you taking this time. I'd love to do it again pretty soon.
You're welcome.
Before we go?
No, it's just good to talk, and I really appreciate the time, and hope you all got something out of it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Alan.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne.